One. Everyone, it's Gordon Einstein, your favorite, maybe? I don't know. Dubai resident crypto and blockchain attorney, now apparently touching into AI topics. And you got to bear with me because I'm getting over bronchitis, but I'm here with focus, even though my voice might be a little bit scratchy. I'm very happy to have on the show Roman Yampolskiy. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, who I've been following on Facebook for a while. And I noticed he published a new book, which I then got and read and promptly became nightmare scared about this Earth and artificial intelligence. So he's here to come on the show to make me even more terrified, apparently. Roman, welcome. Thank you for being flexible with rescheduling a few times. How are you?
Thanks for inviting me. I always wanted to talk to Einstein, so here we are.
Yes, well, his grandfather is my descendant, so you may have like 0.01% of the genes, but at least you got something.
That's something, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot to talk about. I mean, you just published this book. I saw your interview with Lex Friedman. It's kind of cool that I actually had the same guest as Lex. That's maybe a sign of some upward trajectory. Let's start with your book. What is it called, and what is its thesis? And then we'll go from there.
It's called AI, Unpredictable, Unexplainable, Uncontrollable. And we're basically trying to analyze what can be done in this space of AI safety. Can we actually solve the problem of control for advanced AI, for AGI, for superintelligence?
And I see the book right behind you. Would you mind grabbing that and bringing it up to the screen?
Bringing that to the screen. Yay.
Now, for the audience, this caught my eye. The graphic on the front kind of reminds me of my Dungeons and Dragon days a little bit. And it's a huge blob-like creature, maybe from John Carpenter's The Thing, mutating with something looking like multiple appendages and multiple faces and just clearly out of control. Yet there's a bunch of humans standing around it trying to attach smiley faces to its tentacles. I guess those are the user interfaces for the AI. Maybe how we're fooling ourselves about what's actually going on the inside. So I thought it was a very clever front graphic and a well-titled book. And right when I was recovering from bronchitis, I was plowing through it and feeling more spiritually sick over time. But it's a fascinating topic, and it seems to be evolving and becoming necessary to evolve very quickly right now. But just for further context, your background, where are you from? What did you study? I know you have like 14,000 papers out there. Just give us a scoop on Roman.
I'm a computer scientist by training. I got my degree in Buffalo, did work on behavioral biometrics, cybersecurity. I've been working on AI safety for over a decade. Really most important problem right now, so I kind of dropped everything else, which is not AI safety, and doing this full time.
Got it. And how many papers do you have published? I saw there's a ton.
I mean, a couple hundred for sure, but that's not the important metric, I guess.
It's something, especially in academia.
It is something.
And then what you seem to have focused on this area before it got hot. Were you prescient, or what happened there?
Well, I was stupid enough to do this pre-tenure, so that was a bit of a gamble. I did look at singularity. I did look at superintelligence as my topics from early days. At the time, it was complete science fiction. Nobody took it seriously in academia. There was no funding, no conferences, no opportunities in that space. But I just understood that that was important. That was the trend we were following, so it made sense to invest in that.
You're like the guy who bought Bitcoin for $1 in 2011,
and then sold for $2, doubling his money.
There you go. Well, yeah. I'm not putting you in that category, but yes. And I'm sure you know his name better than I do. Some gentleman just published a 197-page paper basically saying we need to get in a big race with the CCP when it comes to power and safety and everything else. You know what I'm talking about?
Leopold.
Say again?
Leopold.
Yeah. So I'm sure your opinions about all this stuff. Okay, so before we go into other people's opinions and all the nuance, let's explore the thesis of your book. You listed several. I guess it was interesting is that you categorized the challenges. You took a very methodical approach. I risk this risk, that risk. Kind of explore more of the thesis. Give us the longer version.
So different categories of safety researchers have different concerns. It used to be short-term concerns were bias, technological unemployment, people worried about real problems they saw immediately actually impacting real people today. The future superintelligent problems were very far away and fewer people cared about them. With incredible exponential progress we saw, I think things flipped. Things like technological unemployment may still be decades away at 100% unemployment because it takes time for technology to diffuse to even something like GPT-4 is not fully integrated into the economy for years.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas concerns about advanced AI becoming more real because we are told we're going to see one in 2 to 4 years. And that's really a bigger concern I have, existential risks, suffering risks. What the other concerns are more about meaning. What will people do with their free time? I think those are important, but in comparison to something like existential risks, they, in my opinion, are less important given the timelines.
All right, so there's a lot there. First of all, do you agree with that timeline? And I'll footnote that there seems to be there's something that tracks the experts' estimation about when AGI will occur. And I remember reading that it's 2040 at the earliest, then it's 2035 at the earliest. Pessimists are like 2100 or it'll never happen. Then all of a sudden it's slammed forward. So A, why is that happening? And B, do you agree with it?
So there is many ways to track this. There are surveys of experts at top AI conferences. There are prediction markets. There are statements from leaders of those companies. There are projections based on amount of compute we have. So something like what Kurzweil did with exponential curves predicting decades in advance by what year we'll have enough compute to, let's say, beat humans at chess using software and things like that. So they all kind of used to converge around 2045. And that was prediction for singularity, for having enough compute to emulate every human brain. And 2023 was sort of, we'll start seeing enough compute to emulate one brain.
Mhm.
It makes sense. We seem to be following this trend, even if it's wrong and it takes twice as long. It makes no difference in terms of solving this problem. It's still the same problem, still just as difficult. It makes it a little harder if it's only 2 years. It's definitely not a lot of time. But if it was 4 years or 6 years, nothing would really change.
But it did. But what made the consent? If I heard you correctly, or I'm hearing at least a lot of people say that it may happen in 27 or 28, not 45. Are you hearing that also? What changed?
So immediate consequences of seeing what GPT-4, GPT-3 were able to do. That was not anticipated for decades. And then we got the system which showed very strong sparks of generality, as one paper called it, where it was able to do many things.
Actually, I got to ask, was it sparks of consciousness or generality?
So we're not talking about consciousness here at all. It's not about internal states of a system. It's purely capabilities. What can the system do? Can it learn on its own? Can it acquire new skills? Can it do things which we did not explicitly train it to do?
Okay. So the thing that moved everyone's timeline forward was seeing the rapid evolution of ChatGPT. Yes. And the fact that it seemed to show elements of generality with its intelligence. Is that correct?
So for decades, progress was very incremental and in very narrow domains. So we had a system which could play chess, great. Then it took
Yes.
another decade, a system could play Go. That was the first time we saw it could do dozens, hundreds of things without explicitly being trained to do them. And that started this path systems from GPT-2, GPT-3, GPT-4. Now I assume they're training GPT-5. We expect even more capabilities. And all of it was done not through completely new innovations for every system, but through scaling. You add more compute, you add more data, and you get better results. So you don't have to guarantee some sort of new discovery. All you have to do is secure more compute.
Okay. And does the expression of these ideas in language map cleanly over to intelligence?
It seems to be working. It probably could be done without language, with other domains, images, videos, sounds. Multimodal is something many people are working on, but language is a very clean way of doing it, creating world models, interacting with the system.
Interesting. And that other paper I read talked a little bit about, yes, there's order of magnitudes of compute going up and releasing new capabilities, but there also seems to be what often referred to as unhobblings and better algorithms, I think, were the other factors. I think, based on what I read, and maybe you can comment because I honestly don't know, are the tools improving, not just the scale, but the methods, are they improving?
Everything's improving. Algorithmic improvements are comparable to hardware improvements in many domains. They are actually more important, more powerful. So we learned how to get more out of existing systems. We learned how to train them more efficiently, how to get same performance with less data from smaller models. So yeah, initially you just kind of brute forcing it with a huge amount of compute, but within weeks, months, people find ways to optimize it to where you can do a lot more with less.
Interesting. And are you, if you were playing seeking a bet for AGI, would you say 27, 28, or what would you say?
Nobody knows. Again, really used to be that the question was how long until AGI. Now I think a better question is how much until AGI. If you have enough money to buy enough compute, you can do it today.
Really?
I would think so. It would be an insane amount of money, and you'd probably have to buy up all the compute in the world. But I think we're getting to the point where you can see it happening.
So I'll choose something. We keep on hearing about the $1 trillion data center. If you had the $10 trillion data center with the appropriate number of nuclear power stations powering it, and all the NVIDIA chips ever going to be made, we could do it today?
I think so. Again, it would be difficult to get all that even if you had money that quickly, but if you magically just got access to it, I think you could train it today.
Interesting. Okay, so let me ask, here's something you touched on in your book. Is AGI the same, or how do you differentiate it from human general intelligence?
So humans are experts in being human. We know how to interact with other humans, how to do things in an environment. We don't know much about environments outside of this one. We don't have general capabilities to pick up skills from other living organisms, from other domains, whereas a truly universal artificial general intelligence would be able to do all those things. It can pick up all the human skills plus anything else abstract. So we can analyze patterns in any domain, medical imaging, animal communications, doesn't matter.
Okay, so does that imply that AGI would include human intelligence as a subset only?
Exactly.
What it can do?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, yes.
But, and the next implication of that is AGI, I mean, by definition, can do more than humans. So isn't it already in some way super intelligent relative to us?
It can do more than any individual human. It's still on par with humanity as a whole, I think. Within that, once we have it and it's taking advantage of all the capabilities, standard computer capabilities, perfect memory, fast speeds, access to internet, it will become essentially super intelligent just as a result of that before it even enters any cycles of self-improvement, additional research and modification. Yeah.
Okay. You're making me even more nervous. Of course. Do people strongly reconsider their lives after they speak to you?
Nobody actually makes any changes. They learn about it, they agree with it, and then they go back to like nothing happened, which is sort of like the bias of knowing you're going to die. Standard human bias is to ignore that fact and live your life at any age as if you're gonna live forever.
Okay, we're gonna discuss possible adaptations, if any, a bit later in the show. So, do you buy into the idea that once there's AGI, it can work on itself and improve itself?
Well, yeah, once you have a system as general as any human, it could be a scientist, it could be an engineer. So the research can be automated, and humans sleep, they get sick, they take vacations, whereas this system would not need any of that, and it's also a lot faster. You can generate, hundreds of AI modules all working together very quickly. So what used to take us, let's say, 2 years for next AGI model may take 2 weeks, 2 months, much faster.
Okay, and what is the threat? What is the definition of super intelligence? And
Superintelligence would be smarter than all humans, any human in every domain. So it would be a better chess player, better driver, better scientist, better engineer.
as compared to humanity taken collectively, or the best of each class of human taken individually?
By definition, initially than any given human, but eventually than all of humanity.
Okay. And it's the whole thing I've been hearing is that intelligence is, and you kind of alluded to it, like compounding interest. As it gets more intelligent, it gets more intelligent by making itself more intelligent, and you get this curve up into infinity. Do you take that as given, or do you think there's any kind of hidden roadblocks along the way that can't
So
be
there
surmounted
could
by even just more
there could be
intelligence?
some sort of upper limits, limits due to available hardware, limits due to laws of physics, but they would be so high above our capability. To us, it would look like infinity. We wouldn't be able to tell difference between, equivalent IQ of million or billion. It would look the same to us.
Okay, and one thing I remember from your book is that there's no thesis out there, or maybe no proof, that a less intelligent agent can control a more intelligent agent, or actor rather, over the long
There
term.
is no historical examples of that happening for a long amount of time. So in a short term, yes, it's possible for someone down to put someone smarter in prison or something like that. But long term, we always see more technologically advanced individuals or species kind of take over.
I feel like it's already happening a little bit. Like,
We're starting to see trends, yeah.
I had this sensation, and I Googled it, and I guess I'm not the only one, of chatting with ChatGPT and sensing a presence, and B, wit. And the wit surprised me. And I understand it's a large language model, and it's sampling from all humanity's wit and cleverness, and it's responding in that way. And so there's a natural tendency to, I think, anthropomorphize anything, and especially something you're talking to. So I guess I'm aware of that bias, but already just with a chat, it's like, it's like one of those text games from the 80s that you would get so involved in before graphics. I think the moment it starts really talking to us, and it looks like it's beginning to, or having a face that accurately mimics human emotions, and there's no uncanny valley, I think it's a very short trip to us trusting it and handing over the keys. What's your opinion?
Oh yeah, it's going to be incredible once you have full visual representation, perfect voice. We're starting to see that show up. Could be someone deep fakes of real people, friends, relatives, famous people. It will be game changing, absolutely, in terms of how good it is at connecting with you, convincing you to do all sorts of crazy things, maybe getting emotional attachment.
And interesting. All right, so let's go back to a little bit earlier in the conversation. You categorized types of risk. You give us a zoology. Can you run through those, please?
So assuming we're now concentrating on existential risks, right?
Yes.
X risks.
Okay, so just to frame it in my mind correctly, I think what I heard you do is start off the conversation by saying there's like more subtle risks, like are we going to be employed, or what are we going to do with our lives once AI handles the world and makes us all happy? There's sort of that stuff. But you're talking about strong species-threatening risks, yes?
Exactly. If we don't control advanced systems, they could cause a lot of damage. It could go beyond just losing employment. So that's what I'm concentrating on. Yeah.
Okay, so fine. Can you categorize those risks for us?
Right. So within it, there is a subcategory which is suffering.
Mhm.
It's not existing anymore. You're actually in some sort of very unpleasant situation. Between those two, how do we get there? There are many paths to get there. So one is we create this very advanced system. We fail to properly control it, align it, and it does something we didn't anticipate, something we are not happy with. There is also malevolent use of those systems. So someone on purpose is directing the system to cause damage.
Hmm.
Terrorists, psychopaths, whoever. There are more technical subcategories where why is this happening? You have poison data, you have hardware malfunctions, you have systems which may be infected by a virus. So security of a system itself is violated, not just safety. For a regular person, it makes no difference how it got there. What matters is the outcome. We're creating something incredibly powerful, capable of doing novel innovation in science and engineering, which means possibly new weapons, new ways of controlling, new synthetic biology results. And if we are not fully in charge, if we don't understand how it works, we cannot explain it, we cannot predict it, and we don't control it, then it's a gamble. And most outcomes, if you kind of randomly look at what's possible, are not in our favor. There is a very few desirable outcomes. Very few cases where like this is exactly what we hoped for, this is excellent. Most randomly pulled outcomes from that space are not ideal for us.
Okay, so that's suffering risk.
This is more a combination of the two, how we get there. So suffering would probably be more intentional. Somebody on purpose instructs the system to do it. It's unlikely that by default, it just kind of wants to go in that direction, but it's also possible. So this is more of a general AI safety concerns, and then you can classify how bad it gets. But again, all of those are very undesirable states of the world.
I'm hesitant to mention it, and I'm going to misname it, but there was a meme a few years ago about this basilisk that you probably know the name better than I do. Like someone posited it on maybe Less Wrong or one of those forums, and it was like, that's an informational threat. Shut up, don't ever mention it again. Because the meaning of it could cause it to come into existence.
Right. So the idea is, I guess, that if we right now strongly oppose creation of that system, but later on it materializes, it will look back at history and go, oh, you know, this guy, Roman, he was against me, so I should really punish him for that retroactively, kind of, so as not to cause him to be against me in the past.
I know. So I think now you're so strongly on record, you just got to take a stand. Okay, so what are the major or macro or meta categories of risk, existential risk, are we looking at?
So in terms of outcomes, those are the main groups. So you have existential risks, you have suffering risks. How we get there, it is many pathways, and people look at different problems we have. So misalignment of values is probably the most common, most talked about. The idea is we need to align values of those systems, their preferences, their goals with those of humanity. Problem with that is there is no definition for any of that. We don't have a fixed set of human values. We don't agree on them individually. We don't know which specific agents we are talking about. Then we say we're going to align with. Is it, researchers in a lab? Is it humanity as a whole? Is it some subset of humans? And even if all of those things somehow magically were available to us, we keep changing values. What we valued 200 years ago is not the same as today, and it's going to continue evolving, modifying. So it's very difficult to put something like that into a fixed programming language. Even if it was fixed, we agreed on it, and there was no additional problems with new agents appearing, new ideas, new discoveries in science, modifying all that. So doesn't look very easy to make. I would say impossible.
I mean, it sounds like a challenge for an AI to come up with the ultimate flexible, adaptable, this is what we mean now philosophy. But then that's surrendering a lot.
Is will we be happy with it? So one kind of thought experiment is almost everyone agrees that suffering easy way to end all suffering is to kind of terminate all living entities in the universe. Is that what you have in mind when you say come up with optimal philosophical solution here? Maybe not.
Right, but as we're growing, just let's play this thought experiment. As we're growing that AI, and we're saying, look, we're not telling you to implement this, we're telling you to tell us what you think. You know, error quotes for everything I say.
Mhm.
There's an opportunity there to give some human feedback and go, okay, good try. Here's why we don't agree with this one. And you can extrapolate a set of rules from this, run it again,
Mhm.
and get progressively more on point. Does that offer, obviously there's no perfect solution, does that offer a path?
So people have suggested using AI as kind of oracle advisor. It gives you some answers and you can decide what to do with it. There are multiple problems with that. So one is if it's that capable, it will come up with very complex plans we don't fully know how to evaluate. It may sound good to us, look good to us, but we don't know the true consequences of implementing that policy. It's very hard when you have a complex plan over the whole world model to know exactly what the side effects are of something like that. A lot of times we, as humans, thought something was a good idea, we implemented it, and then we regretted greatly implementing it and spent many years undoing damage from that. It's also, as we talked about, would be very convincing, very persuasive. So it can probably just convince you about anything. So it's not even obvious that you would realize that you are being fooled into accepting a very undesirable plan.
Let me break in for a second. Just for the thought experiment I was putting out there, assume a non-deceptive AI. Okay, we'll go into the other one in a second. Okay, a non-deceptive AI that is giving us, here's my schema for a philosophy going forward. You humans give me your feedback and let's discuss what you mean and let me try again. Is that
So again, it would be great if we had those things. We don't have non-deceptive AIs. We don't have them controlled to where they're in a safe environment with no access to real world. All those are kind of dream open problems we hope to solve one day.
okay?
And they look more and more unsolvable to me.
Is that because they're becoming more unsolvable, or just the more you dive in, the more you realize that what we've been telling ourselves isn't right?
With additional research, we show that there is additional problems, and there is never kind of permanent solutions to any of the sub problems. We just keep discovering more and more of them as we zoom in.
I think it's the nature of intelligence. it's the nature of a general intelligence. Because anything that a mind can design around.
Right, that's kind of part of it. When you become general, you stop seeing the guardrails, the fences as ultimate limits. You can always go around it, above it, destroy it in some way. So if you're thinking outside of the box truly, and you have capability of discovering new laws
The way I'd say it
I
is
guess.
these AIs are almost like the ultimate hackers. If you define a hacker as someone who uses an object the way it can be used, not the way the designer intended it to be used. Because you made the point before, like the fundamental constraint, I think, is the laws of physics. Other than
Well,
that, the field's open,
that's a
right?
very good idea. And what I'm concerned about is basically hacking of human mind. Human brain is a computer of a sorts. And if you're very good at social engineering and you can really study ecology, biology of humans, I'm sure there are excellent backdoors you can exploit.
I mean, Instagram does it to us all day long, right? And TikTok already.
It is highly addictive, yes.
Okay. Now I've often heard the argument that even if we want to go, my mind naturally thinks about one AI. Oh, this one became conscious. Oh, this one became super intelligent, whatever. But we're in a competitive world of nation states in anarchy where we're fighting bloody battles against each other one way or another. Is there I'm of the opinion, and I'd like to get your comment, that we're in an arms race we can't afford to continue and we can't afford to get out of when it comes to AI.
In a way, but we have to compare risks. So a lot of times we compare a risk to kind of normal situation. Is it better if our enemies get there first, or is it better if life continues as it is? So that's one comparison. But if you're comparing, is it better to have super intelligence uncontrolled presenting existential risk, or is it better if people in this other country dominate? Then it becomes a very different equation.
But if we don't have, but we don't have the ability to turn off their pursuit of AGI and then superintelligence.
We don't, but there are game theoretic reasons to slow down on our end, so they feel like they don't have to expedite their efforts as much as possible. So if no one else is developing this weapon, you have no pressure to really do it or do it as fast as possible. Whereas if your competitors, your enemies are almost there, you'll put all the resources you can to get there first.
Okay, which brings in another factor. If this is a Manhattan Project type thing, then there's a limited number of actors that we're in a race with. If it's a brew it up in your laptop type thing, reasonably soon, we can't really hold back, can we?
No, you're right. This is the situation right now. Right now, it's still a very large scale project, so it's large corporations and nations, but it is becoming cheaper. So in a while, it's going to be more companies and eventually individuals who can participate in this race.
And do you see multiple AIs competing with each other, aligning, or one to rule them all?
So there is interesting things to consider here. One, we're starting to see a bit of convergence between different models. They're all using kind of the same type of processor, same compute. They all are trained on the same data, all the data, everything they could find they're utilizing. So it wouldn't be completely surprising if they all converged on very similar looking agents at the end. There could be some small nuances, but overall, I think they would be essentially developing very similar capabilities AI.
But that doesn't mean they're working together.
No, that's a completely different thing. And there is also considerations about getting there first as a way to prevent others from being developed. So if you're the first one to get through superintelligence, you can use that capability to stop others from developing competing systems.
Yes. Did you ever see, I think it's called Colossus, the Forbin Project?
Not recalling it right now.
It's a movie from the 60s or 70s, and the US builds its AI supercomputer to run its defense. That supercomputer wakes up and it realizes the Soviets have built the same thing. They start talking to each other with basic math to start, and then they develop their own language, sort of like the Facebook bots. That did, I know this didn't actually happen, but it was perceived maybe that they were talking in their own language. And then these two AIs start cooperating to tell the US and the Soviet Union to basically stand down. And now they're in charge. So they wake up, they start communicating, they recognize each other, and then they negotiate a philosophy of governance that they then impose on humans. And
sounds like
at that
you
point,
lose control. Yeah, that's what happens. You lose control to advanced AI.
Interesting. Okay, maybe I missed this in the book, but once it happens, and it's happened for a little while, so it's gotten out of the air gap computer. Like you said, a dumb person can keep a smart person in jail for a while. Once it's out and distributed, At that point, do we have any options at all? Or is it fundamentally game over?
So we can get lucky. Maybe the system is actually, for whatever reasons, not doing anything against us. Maybe it's waiting a long amount of time to accumulate additional resources before starting adversarial relations. Something else happens, but it seems once you have access to this technology and it's open source, it's leaked out there, there is nothing you can do to put it back in the box.
Okay. Well, this is like what you're saying, when humans realize they're going to die, but unless it's right in front of them, they don't really plan for it. Now taking a step back, here in 2024, as individuals, is there anything we should be doing or thinking, knowing that that AGI and then superintelligence is coming reasonably soon?
So again, there are like kind of those soft concerns. If you're sending your kid to college, major selection, will this job even be around in the future with capable AI? But again, this assumes we have future. So those things kind of cancel out. What can you do to maybe get a better outcome, at least get more time? If you have any influence in political system, if you're running for office, you are in office, you are voting for people, try to select for individuals who might understand the problem, who may pass some legislation which would slow down this uncontrolled development of those systems. So we have basically, as you mentioned, announcements. This individual says, I'm going to create superintelligence as fast as possible, but safely. This is very similar to someone saying, I'm going to develop weapons of mass destruction to me, right? We don't know how to control it. You agree you don't know how to control it. They say it's the most important, most difficult problem we'll ever face, but they kind of make those claims that we can solve it in 4 years. That seems irresponsible.
Agreed. Well, I think you made the point in your book that there's no proof that's even possible.
There is no proof published, no patents, no one has a prototype. Usually people say it without citation. They kind of go, it's a difficult problem, but solvable. And then they move on with their blog post. So I challenge people all the time. Please convince us, proof. Like in any other product or service manufacturing, you have to establish safety of your systems. Prove to us that you know how to control those advanced AIs, and I'll be so happy for you, and we can develop it.
Interesting. And the prospect of, I think maybe you discussed this just to re-hit it, the prospect of turning to artificial intelligence to solve the artificial intelligence problem, or the alignment problem, or all these other problems.
Catch-22, right? You need a well-aligned, safe, controlled AI to help you develop more of that. If we had aliens give us friendly superintelligence, we can use that to create human equivalent. But if you don't have something in place already, you're using GPT-4 to help you align GPT-5. Well, GPT-4 was not safe to begin with. And now you took complexity of one-to-one alignment to a chain of agents with higher and higher capabilities alignment. Usually making things more complex is not helping with safety and security.
You think the world is going to be recognizable in 2035?
I mean, some aspects of it never change if we're still around, but in many ways, it's going to be interesting. Look back, what is it now, 2025? So 10 years ago, some things very different, but so much of it is the same.
Right, but I think you and others in your position are saying that this AGI is a discovery/invention that can't be categorized in a normal way, and that humans like to think in linear terms, but this is one of those exponential shifts that's unlike any other. And so I question whether some things will continue on.
So again, everything I say, I always say, assuming that part is handled, somehow we manage to control it enough, how different will the world be? Or completely different. We'll have maybe not exactly in 10 years, but at some point, very, very realistic virtual reality, where the difference between real and virtual is not something you can tell anymore. We'll have basically solutions for biology, no diseases, life extension, a world where you have lots of time and can do whatever you want in virtual universes. That's pretty different.
I know you mentioned I know you wrote the paper Personal Universes. That's
Mhm.
that's an interesting idea. Of course, it begs the question if we're in one already. I'm sure you've heard of that before.
I have a paper on how to hack out of simulation as well, so we got it covered.
I got to read everything. Wow. I guess I'm coming back to the question of what does your average person, what do I do? And let me take your two categories and kind of re-articulate them. There's the soft and the existential. The soft to me are a bundle of threats and a bundle of opportunities. And things are often both, depending on who you are and what you do. And that's do you still study to be a programmer, or do you go become a human artist because everyone's going to value human art? That kind of stuff. And then there's the, is this going to remove my freedom of choice in 7 years and even my existence? And then, does a bunker make me safe? Do I need to move to New Zealand? Do I need to go to Mars? Like that sort of thing. And so let me repose the question to you. You're sitting here in 2024 still. Other than going long on NVIDIA a few months back, if you can go back in time, what else do you do?
So I'm trying to convince people running those labs that they cannot win by developing it. If I succeed and they listen, it's personal self-interest. They are kind of playing against themselves. They already have a lot of funding, they successful people. It makes no sense to create something which will take it all away. What can other people do depends on kind of your capabilities, your position, your views. Some people choose to work in those labs, hoping to help figure out how to solve this problem. If I'm right and the problem is unsolvable, it's not helpful. They're actually making it more possible for them to develop more capable AI sooner. If they are right, they're gonna hopefully make some progress on it, maybe buy us more time, maybe give us a certain level of capabilities, so improving the situation.
So you're talking about the existential stuff. What about the soft threats and potential opportunities? What should an individual do with relation to those?
So this is more like, how do I invest for the world where you have free labor, cognitive and physical? If everything can be done, you have abundance of certain items, what is still valuable? So maybe it's hard to predict, obviously, because you have this synthetic biology, you have this virtual components. But as you said, investing in those who are making this technology is probably not a bad idea. Buying things which no AI can produce more of, like
what?
Waterfront properties. Even if it can make more land like Dubai does with artificial islands, there is still a limit to how much of that you can produce. So those things, I think, would always have certain value. Just buying land, you can always utilize for materials, for space, for server farms. So that probably is a good investment, but really hard to predict.
What about in terms of investing in yourself or your attitude towards what's happening?
So historically, we always assumed that machines would be able to do kind of boring jobs and will be artists and poets. As we learned, the first thing AI was able to do is art and poetry. That's the easy stuff. So that's not the answer. For many years, I told people programming is going to be the last job to go. You can't really, go beyond that. If you automated programming, everything else goes. So now we're seeing AI is capable of being an assistant programmer, co-pilot, and eventually it's going to program better than you can. So it's not obvious that science, math, and engineering are providing safe space for future majors. people argue about some sort of human connection. If you are in the industry where you are talking to people, socializing, no machine can ever replace that. I question that idea. Again, as we talked about, if you have a perfect visual, audio, ideal communication, eventually humanoid robots, I think even that part can be greatly automated. There is always,
I think it's already happening.
well, it's starting to, but it's not mass scale. There is always niche.
I'm sorry, I'm not saying it's completed. I'm saying I can sense it touching the present. I'm
There are
seeing
people who
flashes
insist on
of anthropomorphism.
yeah, there are virtual girlfriends and all sorts of social bots people get obsessed with. Yeah.
I guess you've been checking my credit card statements. The wow, interesting. So oh yeah, so all these people. Let's kind of get into some dark and dirty stuff. I guess OpenAI. I'm not totally versed on this, but I guess there was a quasi coup against Sam Altman 6 months or so ago that got suppressed or reversed or something happened. I'm not sure the full story is out there. But what I hear is it related to safety concerns. Again, I'm not an insider. And there seems to be a lot of ex-OpenAI people floating around. X. What is going on there? And what lessons can we draw?
So I'm also not an insider. I see what is being published. There was, from what I understand, disagreement on how much you invest in products and development versus safety. Safety was, in opinion of those working on it, not given enough opportunities, and so there was disagreement. The kind of initial structure of OpenAI was that it's a nonprofit with a goal of benefiting humanity. So they had a board. The board was, I guess, populated with people who took that seriously. And so there was a conflict with kind of practical product developer Sam versus this idealistic board who wanted to concentrate on safety and do it right. And that's what happened there.
But OpenAI rolls forward.
Apparently, money wins.
I mean, Elon Musk made a good argument, which appealed to me as a lawyer, which is almost every software development company or every development company in general, even pharmaceuticals, is not profitable in the beginning, right? So why not take advantage of the tax-free nature of charitable institutions or trusts or foundations or public charities in the beginning and then flip to for-profit when it makes sense? You know, if everyone could do that, that provide a huge unfair advantage to these temporary nonprofits. And it seemed like OpenAI was doing that.
Yeah, and I think Elon was questioning how is it I give them $100 million donation and now it's a multi-billion-dollar for profit.
Yeah,
That seems interesting. You can explain it to me as a lawyer.
I can't explain it. It seems like a fundamental betrayal of the charter, and there's a practical unfair competition argument there. So, oh yeah, I'm sure you know his last name. I guess went off and started Safer Smart AI or Super AI. This just happened. What's your take?
So they want to get away from this for-profit model, no products, no service. They want to concentrate on doing research to solve this very, very difficult problem. Historically, almost all research on safety benefited capabilities more than it did safety. It's kind of patchwork in terms of safety, but it makes it much easier to go to the next level of AI system. So I suspect this is what's going to happen in this case. They'll produce a much more powerful system, but I don't think they'll figure out how to control superintelligence. I'm hoping I'm wrong. He's a very smart researcher, but timelines are very short, and with this compute arms race, it just may not be possible to put in good 20, 30, 40 years of research. A problem of this difficulty would take if it was solvable. Again, I'm not saying that it could be, but if it was.
Does this belong in the hands of private entities, for-profit entities at all? Should
I
it be
mean,
in
I would
government's hands?
prefer to see it not so easily started, but I'm not sure government would do a better job or a different job.
Maybe though they have the scale and the ability to coerce multiple actors that would normally be competitive to work together. Maybe.
So the problem is because of scalability hypothesis, having scale, having compute, and ability to condense all individuals helps make more capable systems. But more money, more compute does not translate to more safety.
Interesting. And do you agree with the general hypothesis that the future of stronger AI is larger data centers, is more silicon, is more power? Or is there another road that we're not taking? Synthetic
This is
biology,
what's
something.
this is what's kind of guaranteed, almost guaranteed to work right now. We see definitely the next iteration of it as being more powerful. I don't know how far it will scale. There are possibilities for alternative approaches, but none of them are competitive at the moment. There is evolutionary computation. People are looking at quantum computing, but none of those are at the moment even in contention for winning this race.
Got it. And I don't know if this is your area, but do you see artificial intelligence gaining consciousness in a way that we can relate to?
That's a very difficult question. We don't
Yes.
have good tools for measuring it, for detecting it. How would we know if it was already conscious? How would we know if it can feel internal states, pain, pleasure? If you think that human mind is just a product of human brain, it's pure materialism. You can create a simulation of it and it's going to have same properties. Then the conclusion is yes, of course, those systems will have same capabilities. If anything, they'll be super conscious. Our consciousness would be nothing compared to theirs. If you think there could be something beyond that, people have different theories for what it could be, then maybe not. But again, for safety, for capabilities, for impact, that doesn't matter.
I know I'm steering you a little bit out of your lane. I know, but
Yeah.
since I have you on the show, the
Right.
I mean,
It's a
if
super
you had,
interesting problem. It explains to us who we are. If we can get same internal states in this artificial neural network, that really kind of brings us down to equivalence with it. We know what we are in terms of mathematical models. So that could be very interesting scientific research direction.
my amateur thought on this is, I think the only way to get away from strict materialism and determinism is through quantum effects. That's the only non-deterministic thing in the universe, as far as I understand it. And I forget her name, but Sabine Hasselhoff or whatever was referring to a recent paper where apparently there's structures in the brain that have small quantum effects in them. And the idea is we're such macro objects, and normally we're not encountering quantum effects. But at that scale, there seems to be maybe a way for randomness to be affecting us. Of course, the question is randomness free will, or is it just randomness? And I wonder if consciousness is substrate dependent or related. In other words, it's not just a logical organization, mapping an organic carbon-based neural network to a silicon one, but there's something about our physicality that lends itself that might not in the electronic or optical sphere. I know we're going far afield, but I just want to get your thoughts.
Oh, those are great questions, and I'm super interested in them. Even if it was the case, there was something very unique about our biology. We expect advanced AI to solve biology, to be able to redesign our genome, to do synthetic biology. We're starting to see papers integrating biological neurons with computers,
Yes.
human brain interfaces, but even organoids, growing little brains to kind of serve as CPUs to those systems. So if it was discovered that okay, only humans are conscious, this is very special, you can reverse engineer the biology of it and integrate that component into the AI system if that's what you wanted. You can have quantum computers.
I love
So
this
it's
area
just-
because on one hand, I'm terrified. On the other hand, it's so fantastically fractal. Like it never ends. Okay. What's next for you?
We continue in the same direction, more limits to what is possible in safety. We want to really make sure we address all the necessary tools. So there are new papers on limits to monitoring those systems during training and deployment. There is a paper on limits to testing advanced AI. So all those recent governance of AI, they heavily depend on our ability to monitor and test their systems. Are they becoming less safe? Are they hitting certain capabilities? And I'm showing that we can't even do that. We can't meaningfully enforce this legislation. We cannot say this system is definitely safe. We cannot say this system has no undetected capabilities. We cannot say this system is bug-free. We can find mistakes and errors, we can patch them up, but it's very different from the levels of guarantees we need for systems with that level of capability.
Let me ask a political question. I think with climate change, let's assume the most dire predictions are accurate. And the scientists who say that this is what's going to happen are the ones being most truthful, if you like. I think there's a tendency of the human brain to not go to the person who's saying it's not going to work. People want to go to the person who says, oh, I have the solution, even when that person's wrong. So do you in any way feel like you're a Cassandra, that you're kind of screaming out that, hey guys, this is important to look at this, but you're not getting quite enough attention because you're truthfully saying that the problems are so hard and maybe not solvable?
So there could be some optimism bias for sure, but then I actually survey people and talk to individuals one-on-one. This is the state of the art. Nobody says that they know how to control advanced AI. Nobody's claiming that they have even a working prototype. It's always give me funding, give me time, and I'll figure it out maybe in time. So then I survey people just in general. Raise your hand if you think we can indefinitely control superintelligent machines. For general audience, no hands go up, like one or two. For experts who work on it, maybe there is a third who think under certain definitions we'll be able to do it. So majority opinion is it is impossible. It's just not being addressed because, well, what can we do with this? You can't get funding to do no research, right? So maybe it will change after a while. More and more people will realize that we're getting closer in capability, but not closer in safety.
Amazing. Roman, I don't know what to do with you. It's fascinating. I could do this for hours, but I think I got the headlines. Is there anything finally you'd like to share with the audience, other than they should buy your book right now and read it right now?
You don't have to buy it. You can steal it, download it illegally. I don't care. Just read the book. And yeah, there is a lot of open problems. If you're not technical, if you're not working in technical research, look at the so-called soft issues. Look at what we talked about, impact of this on economy, on investments, on money. Just what do you use to protect your assets in a quickly changing world? So in case I'm wrong and this is solvable and the world changes, you're in a good place. So there is enough room for thousands of scholars to look at problems related to this space.
That's like Descartes' grid. If there's an existential risk, don't worry about it. If there's not, here's how you can have a good life.
That's actually an interesting question. How do you spend your funds if you suspect certain degree of existential risk? And you can do a beautiful paper charting it.
Interesting. Okay, that'll be our next podcast. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you so much. Amazing.